For centuries, black holes have remained one of the greatest mysteries in the universe, enigmatic voids where even light cannot escape. We've heard about them in science fiction, seen them in deep space images, and studied them from a safe distance. But what if the unimaginable happened? What if a black hole suddenly appeared near Earth? At first, it might seem like nothing has changed. The skies would look the same, the planets would continue their orbits, and life on Earth would proceed as usual. But out in the vastness of space, an invisible force is beginning to disrupt the delicate cosmic balance. Somewhere in the outer reaches of the solar system, beyond Pluto and the icy Kuiper belt, a dark anomaly emerges. Unlike anything detected before, it carries no visible light, no clear signal, just an immense gravitational force warping the fabric of space-time itself. This is not an asteroid, a rogue planet, or even a star on a collision course. This is a black hole. But how did it get here? Black holes do not simply appear from nowhere. They form through the collapse of massive stars or through the violent merging of neutron stars. Could this be a wandering black hole, ejected from a distant galaxy, silently drifting through the void for millions of years before reaching us? Or is it something even stranger? Perhaps the remnant of a primordial black hole, one of the ancient cosmic objects formed in the earliest moments of the universe. Whatever the case, it is now within our cosmic neighborhood, and its presence is about to be felt. The first signs would be subtle: anomalies in the orbits of distant objects, unexplained gravitational fluctuations detected by astronomers. The data would be puzzling at first, but as calculations are refined, a terrifying realization would set in. Something massive is approaching our solar system, something with a gravitational force powerful enough to reshape the very structure of space-time. News of this discovery would send shockwaves through the scientific community. Every major space agency, observatory, and research institute would shift their focus toward this mysterious intruder. Telescopes would scan the skies, gravitational wave detectors would record strange fluctuations, and physicists would scramble to determine the black hole's trajectory. Could it be on a direct path toward Earth, or will it merely pass through our solar system, leaving a wake of destruction in its path? No one knows for sure, but one thing is certain: the closer it gets, the more it will influence everything we know. This is just the beginning. A silent force, growing ever closer, capable of rewriting the fate of our world. As the days and weeks pass, the black hole's presence begins to make itself known in subtle but alarming ways. At first, it's only detectable by astronomers, those who spend their lives studying the predictable dance of celestial bodies. But now that dance has begun to change. Strange anomalies start appearing in the orbits of the outer planets. Neptune, which has moved along the same steady path for billions of years, is now experiencing tiny but measurable shifts in its position. Astronomers double-check their instruments, thinking it must be an error, but the data is undeniable. Something with immense gravity is tugging at the planets. Even the distant Oort cloud, a vast sphere of icy debris at the very edge of our solar system, is beginning to react. Comets that have remained frozen in deep space for eons are now being nudged, their delicate balance disrupted by an unseen force. Some are being sent hurtling inward, making their way toward the inner solar system, where they could pose a threat to Earth. Meanwhile, on our own planet, the effects are still invisible to the human eye. But in the scientific community, a growing sense of dread begins to take hold. Researchers at gravitational wave observatories, such as LIGO and Virgo, detect faint but distinct ripples in space-time, disturbances caused by the warping of gravity itself. These waves are unlike anything they've recorded before. News of the anomaly begins to spread. At first, it's confined to academic circles, discussed in hushed voices at conferences and within research labs. But as more data emerges, the story can no longer be contained. The world's top space agencies, NASA, ESA, and China's CNSA, hold emergency meetings. They know what this means, and they must decide when and how to tell the public. Then a new revelation stuns the scientific community. The anomaly is not just passing through, it's getting closer. Calculations suggest that, within a matter of years or even months, its effects will be felt more directly. It's moving toward the inner solar system at an astonishing speed. The question is no longer whether it will affect us, but how bad the effects will be. The world is about to change in ways we've never imagined. At first the news trickles out in quiet scientific reports, buried in academic papers and obscure astrophysics journals. But in today's hyper-connected world, nothing stays secret for long. It begins with whispers in online science communities, speculation that a gravitational anomaly has been detected near the solar system. A few space enthusiasts notice odd patterns in official data and start discussing the possibilities on forums. Then a leak occurs. A well-known astrophysicist, unable to keep silent, hints at the
T minus 5, 4,
he doesn't
3,
explicitly
2,
mention a black hole,
1.
but his cryptic remarks
Booster
set off a
ignition
frenzy of
and liftoff of Discovery,
Something massive
hoisting
is
harmony
approaching
to
our
the
solar
heavens
system.
and
He
opening new
says,
gateways
"We
for
are
international
witnessing
science."
gravitational disruptions that are difficult to explain. The internet explodes with theories. News outlets scramble to cover the story, each headline more dramatic than the last. A cosmic threat approaches. Scientists detect mysterious gravitational shift. Is the end closer than we think? At first the official response is muted. NASA and other space agencies attempt to downplay the concerns, issuing carefully worded statements. We are closely monitoring a newly detected gravitational anomaly. While its presence is confirmed, there is no immediate threat to Earth. Our top scientists are conducting further research, but the vague reassurance does little to calm the public. Conspiracy theories start to spread like wildfire. Some claim it's a government cover-up. Others suggest the anomaly is an alien megastructure. Wild theories flood social media, and panic begins to creep in. Then undeniable evidence emerges. Amateur astronomers, those with powerful telescopes and a passion for the stars, start confirming what the professionals have known for months. They detect strange shifts in the orbits of asteroids and distant planets. Something massive is pulling at the very fabric of space-time in our cosmic neighborhood. Within days, press conferences are held across the world. This time the tone is different. Government agencies and top scientists appear on live television, their faces serious. We have detected a rogue black hole entering our solar system, the NASA director announces. Its trajectory suggests it is moving closer. While the exact consequences remain uncertain, we are taking this situation very seriously. The world watches in stunned silence. A black hole, a force of nature so powerful that nothing, not even light, can escape its grasp, is heading toward us. The impact on society is immediate. Financial markets plunge as uncertainty spreads. World leaders hold emergency meetings, debating possible responses. Survivalists and doomsday preppers start stockpiling supplies, convinced that the end is near. But the real effects of the black hole's approach haven't even begun yet. What happens next will change life on Earth forever. As the days pass, the world waits in anxious anticipation. Scientists rush to calculate the rogue black hole's exact trajectory, but the numbers are daunting. This is no ordinary celestial event. This is a force beyond human comprehension. Then the first changes begin. At first, they're subtle. Satellites in high orbit start behaving erratically. GPS signals glitch for brief moments, throwing navigation systems into brief disarray. Some satellites even seem to drift slightly out of position, requiring engineers to perform emergency adjustments. Then astronomers report something stranger. The outer planets, Neptune, Uranus, even Saturn, are displaying minuscule deviations in their orbits. These are planets that have followed the same gravitational pathways for millions of years, yet now they are shifting ever so slightly. The cause, the gravitational pull of the rogue black hole, is already being felt. For the average person, life goes on as usual. For now, Cities remain busy, businesses continue to operate, and most people cling to the hope that experts will figure something out. But a sense of unease is growing. Then something unmistakable happens. The tides begin to behave strangely. At first, it's dismissed as an anomaly, perhaps a seasonal shift or an unusual alignment of the moon and sun. But soon, coastlines around the world experience tides that are slightly higher or lower than expected. Ocean currents shift in ways that defy prediction. In some areas, minor flooding occurs even when the weather is calm. The black hole is still far away, but its gravitational influence is beginning to ripple through our solar system, subtly tugging at Earth itself. Governments try to maintain order, urging people to remain calm. But behind closed doors, some of the world's brightest minds are struggling with a terrifying question. If this is happening now, when the black hole is still millions of miles away, what will happen when it gets even closer? As scientists race against time, a new discovery shakes the world to its core. A team of researchers using deep space telescopes detects a shocking phenomenon. Light itself is beginning to bend in unexpected ways. Stars that have been catalogued for centuries appear slightly out of place. Their positions are shifting, distorted by the immense gravitational lensing of the rogue black hole. And then comes the ultimate revelation. A black hole of this size and mass could have unpredictable effects on time itself. If it gets close enough, time on Earth may not move as we understand it. Some parts of the planet could experience time dilation, where seconds stretch into minutes and hours into days. The closer you are to the gravitational force, the more extreme the effect. This isn't just a disaster. This is the beginning of a war against the very fabric of reality itself. As the black hole drifts closer, Earth itself becomes a living experiment in gravitational physics. Time, once a universal constant for humanity, begins to betray us. It starts with atomic clocks, devices so precise they lose only a fraction of a second over millions of years. But now they begin to fall out of sync. Time measured on the surface of the Earth doesn't match the time recorded by satellites orbiting above. The difference is small at first, measured in nanoseconds, but then it grows milliseconds. And then people begin to notice. Flights take slightly longer
T-minus
than
5,
scheduled.
4,
Stock market
3,
trading algorithms
2,
begin to glitch.
1.
Certain areas
Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery, hoisting harmony to the heavens and opening new.
Expected. At first, experts try to dismiss it as technical malfunctions. But as the discrepancies grow, the world realizes the truth. Time itself is being stretched and compressed, and the effects are not uniform. In some locations, time appears to be moving faster. In others, it slows down. An observer standing at sea level may experience time slightly differently than someone standing on a mountain. Space agencies report strange anomalies. Signals from deep space probes are delayed by unusual amounts of time. Some messages from space appear to arrive before they were even sent. The closer the black hole gets, the more extreme these distortions become. Then the sky begins to change. At night, stars that should be fixed in place appear to shift as if trembling in fear of the approaching darkness. Entire constellations warp and stretch in ways that shouldn't be possible. This is the effect of gravitational lensing, the bending of light as it passes through the warped space surrounding the black hole. To the naked eye, it looks as if the universe itself is rippling. But the real horror isn't what's happening in the sky. It's what's happening on Earth. People report strange experiences, memories that don't align with reality. A person sets down an object, looks away for a moment, and then finds it in a different place. Conversations seem to end before they begin. Some claim to have momentary flashes of seeing themselves in different locations, as if reality is glitching. Scientists struggle to understand what's happening. Could time be folding in on itself? Could the black hole's gravity be twisting causality itself? One thing is clear. The rules of existence, the laws that have governed the universe since the dawn of time, are beginning to break. And yet the black hole is still millions of miles away. If this is happening now, what will happen when it gets even closer? For most of human history, The idea of Earth moving through space has been an abstract concept, something only scientists truly understood. But now every person on the planet feels it. At first the changes are subtle. The oceans seem a little more restless. Tides rise a little higher than usual. And some coastal cities experience minor flooding. The weather seems off. Storms that should have been predictable shift in unexpected directions, their paths distorted by forces no meteorologist can explain. Then something undeniable happens. GPS satellites, which rely on precise orbital calculations, start showing impossible results. Navigation systems tell pilots they're miles away from where they actually are. Seismometers, devices designed to detect earthquakes, begin picking up strange tremors, not from within the Earth, but from deep in space. The realization is as terrifying as it is undeniable. Earth is moving. But not in the way it normally does. The black hole's immense gravity is pulling on our planet, ever so slightly shifting its position in space. Even though it's still millions of miles away, its influence is powerful enough to tug at our world like a puppeteer pulling invisible strings. Scientists rush to calculate the effects. Could this change our orbit around the sun? Could it affect the seasons? The climate? The answer is worse than anyone imagined. Even the slightest deviation in Earth's orbit could have catastrophic consequences. If the planet moves too far from the sun, temperatures will drop, crops will fail, and the world will be plunged into an early ice age. If it moves too close, the rising heat could trigger mass extinctions before the black hole even arrives. And there's an even greater threat lurking beneath the surface. Deep within the Earth, the planet's molten core is in a delicate balance. A shift in gravitational forces could disrupt this balance, triggering an increase in volcanic activity. Some of the world's largest and most dangerous supervolcanoes, Yellowstone, Toba, and Campi Flegrei, begin showing signs of unrest. But the true nightmare begins when the black hole's gravitational pull starts affecting Earth's rotation. Days grow slightly longer, then shorter. The rhythm of night and day, something humanity has relied on for millennia, begins to stutter like a malfunctioning clock. Some regions experience extended daylight, while others are plunged into prolonged darkness. People struggle to sleep. Animals act strangely. Birds refuse to migrate. Whales beach themselves in confusion. The natural world is sensing something that humans can barely comprehend. And then the first major disaster strikes. A massive earthquake, far larger than anything in recorded history, shakes the Pacific Ocean. Tsunamis race toward the coasts at terrifying speeds. Cities near the ocean are caught off guard as walls of water, higher than skyscrapers, crash onto the land. The world watches in horror as entire regions are swallowed by the sea, and the black hole is still getting closer. For centuries, humans have looked up at the night sky and found comfort in its predictability. The stars, the moon, the gentle shifting of the constellations, these celestial patterns have guided sailors, inspired poets, and reassured civilizations that no matter how chaotic life on Earth becomes, the cosmos remains constant. But now the sky is changing. And it is anything but reassuring. At first, astronomers notice it before anyone else. The positions of the stars seem wrong. Constellations that should be in one place are slightly off. The North Star no longer aligns perfectly with true north. Satellites in Earth's orbit begin drifting unpredictably, forcing space agencies to make constant adjustments to keep them operational. Then the effects become visible to the naked eye. On a clear night, people look up and see something terrifying. Stars that have shone for thousands of years are now flickering and distorting. They seem to stretch and warp as if they're being pulled by an unseen force. Some stars even appear to disappear for brief moments, only to reappear again. The cause, the intense gravitational pull of the approaching black hole, is bending the very fabric of space-time, distorting the light from distant stars in ways that make them look like they're shifting, stretching, or vanishing. The phenomenon is known as gravitational lensing, And while it has been observed around other black holes in deep space, never before has it been seen with the naked eye from Earth. But this is only the beginning. Soon, the distortion begins to affect
T-minus
our own
5,
sun.
4,
During sunrise
3,
and sunset,
2,
something eerie
1.
happens. Instead of its
Booster
usual
ignition
golden glow,
and liftoff of
the sun
Discovery,
appears warped,
hoisting
like it's
harmony
being
to the
seen through a
heavens
funhouse
and
mirror.
opening new
On some
gateways for
days,
international
it looks
science.
larger than normal, its edges stretched unnaturally. On others, it seems smaller, its brightness dimmed in an unsettling way. People begin to panic. Religious leaders declared a sign of the apocalypse. Conspiracy theorists claim the government has been hiding the truth for years. Scientists try to explain, but their words offer little comfort, because they too know that things are about to get much worse. The moon, locked in a delicate gravitational dance with Earth, is also affected. Its orbit begins to shift ever so slightly. Normally, the moon controls the tides, keeping the rhythm of the oceans in check. But now, that rhythm is thrown into chaos. Some coastlines experience high tides that last for hours instead of minutes. Others find themselves in an unnatural low tide, the ocean pulling away from the shore as if retreating from an unseen force. Then something happens that hasn't occurred in millions of years. A blood moon, not the kind caused by a lunar eclipse, but a permanent eerie red hue that lingers night after night. The light reflecting off the moon is now being warped by the black hole's gravity, scattering it in a way that makes the moon appear darker, redder, and almost alien. It's no longer just scientists and astronomers who are noticing the changes. Now every person on the planet can feel that something is deeply wrong. The sky, the one thing humanity has always counted on to remain constant, is unraveling before their eyes. And the black hole is still getting closer. At first, the effects of the black hole's gravity are subtle, barely noticeable to the average person. A slight shift in ocean tides, an unusual pattern in the wind, a strange stillness in the air. But slowly over days and weeks the force intensifies, growing stronger, reaching across space to grip the Earth in an unrelenting pull. The first place this becomes undeniable is in Earth's atmosphere. Weather patterns begin to behave erratically. High-pressure and low-pressure systems that once followed predictable cycles now shift unpredictably. Storms that should take days to form now appear in mere hours. Hurricanes linger in place longer than ever before, as if something is pulling at them from above, holding them hostage in the sky. Airplane pilots report bizarre turbulence, far beyond anything they've encountered before. Some flights experience sudden altitude drops without any warning. Others find their navigation systems slightly off, as if their aircraft are being nudged by an unseen force. Even the wind begins to change. Across the planet, people feel an eerie stillness, long stretches of time where the air refuses to move, where the world feels too quiet. And then out of nowhere, powerful gusts tear through cities and landscapes, as if Earth itself is exhaling unpredictably. But this is just the beginning. The black hole's gravitational force does not only affect air and wind, it begins to pull on Earth's water as well. Tides are no longer bound by the usual cycles. Coastal cities find themselves in an unprecedented crisis. Some days the ocean seems to pull away, retreating so far that miles of seabed are exposed. Ships that once floated effortlessly are left stranded on dry land, unable to reach the receding waves. The water is being dragged away, not by the moon's gravity, but by something far more powerful. And then, without warning, the tides surge back with an intensity never before recorded. Tsunamis crash against cities with little to no warning. Rivers begin to flow in the wrong direction, reversing course as they are influenced by an invisible force in the sky. Lakes spill over their edges, flooding entire regions as water refuses to stay in place. Even the ground beneath our feet is not immune. Seismologists detect an unusual frequency of earthquakes, but not the kind caused by shifting tectonic plates. These quakes are different. They do not follow the patterns geologists have spent centuries studying. They seem random, unpredictable. And worst of all, they seem to be happening everywhere, not just along fault lines but in places that have never experienced an earthquake before. The black hole's gravitational pull is not just influencing the atmosphere or the oceans, it is pulling at the very structure of the Earth itself. In some areas, the ground begins to lift ever so slightly, as if the planet is stretching toward the sky. Skyscrapers sway unnaturally, bridges creak under the pressure, and ancient structures that have stood for centuries begin to crack and crumble. The black hole is still far away, yet its power is already reshaping the Earth in ways no one could have imagined. And deep underground, another terrifying effect is brewing. The Earth's magma chambers, the lifeblood of volcanoes, are also being disturbed. The intense gravitational pull is disrupting the delicate balance of pressure within these molten reservoirs. Dormant volcanoes, once thought to be asleep for thousands of years, suddenly show signs of activity. Some begin to smoke, others start to rumble, and then without warning, they erupt. Across the planet, volcanic explosions send ash clouds towering into the sky, blocking out the sun in certain regions. Rivers of lava spill down mountainsides, devouring everything in their path. The Earth itself is now screaming, in response to the presence of the black hole. And yet the most terrifying realization is this: the black hole is still getting closer. Everything that is happening now, the warping of the sky, the shifting of the tides, the earthquakes, the volcanic eruptions, this is only the beginning. For all of human history, time has been an unshakable constant. Seconds turn into minutes, minutes into hours, hours into days. The rhythm of life has always been guided by the steady, predictable ticking of time. But now something is wrong. Something is deeply wrong. The presence of the black hole is no longer just distorting space, it is warping time itself. At first the effects are subtle. People wake up feeling more exhausted than usual, even after a full night's sleep. Clocks seem to be slightly off, out of sync with each other, in ways that make no sense. A person looks at their phone, sees that 10 minutes have passed, but when they check another clock, it says only 5. Then the disturbances become more noticeable. Some people report that their days feel shorter, as if time is slipping through their fingers. Others claim that moments stretch unnaturally long. Conversations that should take seconds feel like minutes, and minutes feel like hours. A worker looks at the clock, swearing their shift is nearly over, only to realize that barely any time has passed. Time dilation, a concept once only studied in extreme physics, has become a reality on Earth. The cause, the gravitational pull of the black hole, is so intense that it is bending the fabric of space-time itself. Normally time moves at a steady pace for everyone on Earth. But in the presence of a massive gravitational field, things change.
T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery, hoisting Harmony to the heavens and open.
It begins with small inconsistencies, but soon the world falls into chaos. Airports report absolute mayhem. Flights that should have landed on time arrive hours late. Yet passengers claim their journey felt normal. In hospitals, surgeons lose track of time during operations, leading to dangerous complications. The stock market spirals into confusion, with traders seeing prices fluctuate unpredictably in what feels like slowed down time. And then, something even stranger happens. Some people begin to see things before they happen, as if time itself is glitching. A woman reaches for her coffee, only to see her cup already falling before she's even touched it. A child watches a lightning bolt strike, but hears the thunder first, breaking every rule of physics. Drivers slam on their brakes at green lights, claiming they saw an accident happen, moments before it actually does. For the first time in history, time is no longer universal. Entire cities find themselves out of sync with each other. In one part of the world, a single day passes. In another, a week goes by. Scientists desperately try to make sense of it, but every model they create breaks down. The rules of time no longer apply. But there is something even more terrifying.
The closer you are to the black hole, the slower time moves relative to the rest of the universe. If the black hole keeps approaching, there will come a moment when parts of the Earth will experience time almost frozen, while the rest of the planet continues moving forward. And if anyone were to fall into the black hole, they would experience time at an infinitely slow rate, while the rest of the universe ages billions of years in mere seconds. But before the world can even process this horrifying reality, another change occurs. The black hole is now so close that its gravitational pull is affecting Earth's orbit around the Sun. The seasons once perfectly predictable are now thrown into disarray. The tilt of the planet, responsible for creating spring, summer, fall, and winter, begins to wobble. Countries that should be experiencing summer are suddenly hit by extreme winter storms. Tropical regions that have never seen snow before find themselves buried under ice. Meanwhile, in other parts of the world, the heat becomes unbearable. Some regions experience months of continuous daylight, as the sun's position in the sky refuses to shift.
Crops wither, lakes evaporate, and entire ecosystems collapse as the Earth begins to spiral into chaos. And yet, even as the planet teeters on the brink of total collapse, the worst is still yet to come. The black hole is getting closer, and soon nothing will be able to stop what happens next. For millions of years, the sky above us has been a vast open canvas, a sea of blue during the day, a glittering abyss of stars at night. It has been constant, unwavering, a source of guidance for travelers, a thing of beauty and wonder. But now, that sky is breaking. At first, the changes are almost imperceptible. People step outside, look up, and notice that something feels off. The stars, which have been familiar for millennia, no longer look the same. Some seem to have shifted positions, while others appear distorted, as if they are bending and warping. It's not just an illusion. The black hole's gravitational lensing, an effect where light itself is bent around a massive object, is now visibly altering the night sky. Stars that should be billions of miles away now look as if they're stretched across the heavens, twisted into eerie, spiraling shapes. The constellations humanity has used for navigation for thousands of years are unrecognizable. But then something even more terrifying happens. The moon disappears. One evening, millions of people step outside expecting to see the familiar silver glow of the moon hanging in the sky, but instead there is nothing, just an empty void. No soft lunar glow, no gentle reflection of sunlight, just darkness. Panic spreads. Is this an eclipse? A bizarre weather event? But then, just as suddenly, the moon reappears in an entirely different position. It happens again the next night, and the next. The moon, which has faithfully orbited Earth for billions of years, is now out of control. The black hole's gravitational influence is tugging at it, pulling it slightly off its normal orbit. This small shift, though barely noticeable at first, has catastrophic consequences. The moon's gravitational pull controls Earth's tides. Even the slightest change in its orbit can disrupt the delicate balance of the oceans. And now, the tides are going wild. Coastal cities, which have stood strong against the sea for centuries, are no longer safe. The ocean is behaving erratically. Some days, tides are so low that ships are stranded in harbors, unable to sail. Other days the sea rises without warning, swallowing entire neighborhoods in a matter of minutes, and then it gets worse. The black hole's approach is not just affecting the moon, it's also pulling at the atmosphere itself. The sky, once stable and predictable, is now shifting. Jet streams, fast-moving currents of air that regulate weather patterns, are being thrown into chaos. Suddenly, places that were once warm find themselves buried under snow. Deserts that have been dry for thousands of years are suddenly hit by torrential rains. Cities near the equator experience hurricane-force winds, while the poles see temperatures rise at an unprecedented rate. And then something happens that sends shockwaves through the scientific community. The aurora borealis, the beautiful northern lights typically seen near the poles, begins appearing all over the world, even in places where it has never been seen before. It would be breathtaking if it wasn't a sign of something catastrophic. The auroras are caused by solar particles colliding with Earth's magnetic field. But now they are growing in intensity, stretching across the entire planet. The reason: the black hole is disrupting Earth's magnetosphere, the invisible shield that protects us from deadly radiation. Without this protection, Earth is now vulnerable. Radiation levels begin to rise. People in high-altitude regions start reporting strange symptoms: dizziness, nausea, even burns appearing on their skin without exposure to the sun. GPS systems start to fail, as satellites in orbit struggle to function in the unstable magnetic environment. And then, in a terrifying realization, scientists confirm something no one wanted to hear. The black hole is no longer just affecting the sky, it is beginning to pull Earth itself out of its orbit. For billions of years our planet has followed the same steady path around the sun, giving us seasons, stability, and life as we know it. But now, that path is changing. The consequences of this shift are unimaginable.
T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Billions of years.
Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery, hoisting harmony to the heavens and opening new gateways.
Forces that shape our existence. The sun's pull keeps us in orbit. The moon stabilizes our axis. And everything operates within precise, almost unchanging cycles. But that balance is now crumbling. The black hole's approach is beginning to shift Earth's orbit. At first, the change is almost imperceptible. The days begin to feel slightly different. The sun rises at unexpected times, and the stars seem to drift in unfamiliar patterns. But then the seasons begin to lose their rhythm. Spring arrives too early. Flowers bloom before winter has fully passed, only to wither when an unexpected cold snap strikes. Summer lingers too long in some places, bringing unrelenting heat waves, while in others, winter refuses to end. The black hole's gravitational pull is slowing Earth's rotation, and the consequences are nothing short of apocalyptic. The days begin to stretch as Earth's spin slows. Days begin to grow longer. What was once a 24-hour day stretches to 26 hours, then 30, then 40. At first, this might seem like a minor inconvenience. More time in a day, right? But in reality, it's catastrophic. The extended daylight hours turn entire continents into scorching wastelands, as the sun hangs overhead for what feels like an eternity. Without the usual cycle of cooling at night, heat builds up uncontrollably. On the other side of the planet, where night stretches on for longer and longer, temperatures plummet, crops fail, animals struggle to adapt, and soon entire ecosystems begin to collapse. The disruption of Earth's rotation also throws weather patterns into complete disarray. With the days growing longer, superstorms start forming, hurricanes that last weeks instead of days, tornadoes that never dissipate, and blizzards that bury entire cities under mountains of snow. But the most terrifying consequence is yet to come. Gravity itself is changing as the black hole pulls at Earth. Our planet's gravity begins to fluctuate. One day, people notice that they feel lighter, jumping higher than usual, objects seeming to hover slightly before falling back down. At first, it seems almost fun, a strange anomaly in physics. But then, gravity overcompensates, and suddenly, everything feels heavier. People struggle to move, their limbs sluggish as if they're being pulled down by an unseen force. Buildings and infrastructure, designed for Earth's normal gravity, begin to weaken under the strain. Bridges collapse, skyscrapers develop cracks, planes struggle to take off, their engines working overtime to generate lift. Space agencies report something even more alarming. The moon's orbit is becoming erratic. The black hole's immense gravitational force is tugging at the moon, throwing it into a chaotic, unpredictable path. Some nights it appears far closer than usual, an ominous, massive presence in the sky. Other nights it seems to drift farther away, its influence on Earth weakening. With the moon's orbit destabilizing, tides become uncontrollable. The world's coastlines begin to flood at random, entire cities swallowed by walls of water that strike without warning. In some places the ocean retreats so far that entire seafloors are exposed, only for a massive wave to come rushing back hours later. But the scariest revelation is yet to come. The sun is no longer reliable. As Earth is slowly pulled out of its orbit, our relationship with the sun begins to change. Some days the sun appears larger and brighter than ever before, its heat unbearable, turning forests into blazing infernos. Other days it looks smaller and distant, casting a dim, eerie light over the planet. Earth is drifting. The sun, which has been our lifeline for all of history, is no longer a fixed point in our sky. Scientists issue a chilling warning. If Earth continues on this unstable trajectory, we could be thrown completely out of the sun's orbit. And if that happens, we will become nothing more than a rogue planet, drifting through space without a star to warm us. Darkness, freezing temperatures, the slow, inevitable extinction of all life. For the first time, humanity is beginning to understand the true horror of what it means to have a black hole near Earth. And the worst is still yet to come. The changes to Earth's orbit and gravity have already thrown the planet into chaos, but now a far more insidious threat is emerging. Our atmosphere is starting to break apart. For billions of years, Earth's atmosphere has been our shield, protecting us from the vacuum of space, stabilizing our climate, and providing the oxygen we need to survive. But now, under the black hole's growing influence, it is beginning to unravel. At first, the effects are subtle. Scientists notice strange fluctuations in air pressure, and satellites in low Earth orbit detect unusual distortions in the upper atmosphere. Then the changes become undeniable. Gravity's grip on the atmosphere weakens. Earth's gravity is what holds our atmosphere in place. The thin blue shell of air surrounding us doesn't stay put on its own. It's constantly being pulled toward the surface by gravity. But now, with the black hole's influence altering Earth's gravitational field, our hold on the atmosphere is slipping. The most vulnerable part is the exosphere, the uppermost layer of our atmosphere, where gases are only loosely bound to Earth. Normally, these molecules move slowly enough to stay in place, but with the black hole's pull disrupting gravity, they begin to drift away into space. At first, only the lightest gases, hydrogen and helium, begin to escape. These are crucial gases for maintaining our climate, but their loss isn't immediately noticeable. Then oxygen molecules start to thin out. Oxygen levels begin to drop as more of Earth's atmosphere is stripped away. The percentage of oxygen in the air begins to decline. At first, people simply feel more tired than usual, struggling to catch their breath even after minor exertion. It feels like being at a high altitude, where the air is thinner and harder to breathe. But as the process accelerates, symptoms become more severe. People suffer from headaches, dizziness, confusion, and even loss of consciousness as oxygen levels drop below what the human body requires. Those in high-altitude regions feel the effects first, but soon, even at sea level, breathing becomes a struggle. Hospitals are overwhelmed with patients suffering from hypoxia, a condition caused by insufficient oxygen.
T-minus 5,
Emergency
4,
oxygen tanks
3,
are distributed,
2,
but supplies
1.
are limited. Plants
Booster ignition
begin to
and
struggle.
liftoff of
The
Discovery.
very foundation
Hoisting
of Earth's
harmony.
ecosystems, trees, crops, and algae, start to wither as the carbon cycle is disrupted. Without a stable atmosphere, the delicate balance that supports life is breaking apart. And then the next catastrophe strikes. Radiation levels begin to rise. Our atmosphere does more than provide oxygen. It also blocks deadly space radiation. The ozone layer absorbs harmful ultraviolet UV rays from the sun, while the upper atmosphere deflects high-energy cosmic rays that could otherwise sterilize the planet. But with the atmosphere thinning, radiation levels begin to spike. The effects are immediate. People notice that even short exposure to sunlight now causes severe sunburns. UV radiation is no longer being filtered properly, increasing the risk of skin cancer and DNA mutations. Electronics start to malfunction as cosmic rays bombard the planet. Power grids, Communication satellites, and even personal devices experience random failures, as high-energy particles fry sensitive circuits. Animals that rely on magnetic fields for navigation, such as birds, whales, and sea turtles, become disoriented. They begin to migrate in the wrong directions, leading to mass strandings and ecological collapse. And worst of all, the Earth is now more exposed than ever to meteor impacts. The atmosphere can no longer protect us from space debris. Ordinarily, small meteoroids burn up upon entering Earth's atmosphere, creating harmless streaks of light known as shooting stars. But as the atmosphere weakens, more and more objects are making it to the surface. The first incidents seem minor, small meteorites crashing into remote areas, causing strange crater formations. Then a large asteroid enters the atmosphere, and doesn't break apart. It impacts a major city, unleashing devastation on an unprecedented scale. The explosion levels buildings, sends shockwaves for miles, and throws massive amounts of dust into the air, further accelerating climate instability. This should have been a once-in-a-century event, but under the influence of the black hole, space debris is now constantly raining down on Earth. And with each impact, the planet is pushed further toward the brink of extinction. Yet the most horrifying change is still to come. The sky begins to vanish. As Earth loses more of its atmosphere, the sky itself begins to change. The once brilliant blue color of the daytime sky fades to a dim, eerie gray. There are fewer clouds, as water vapor struggles to stay in the thinning air. At night, the stars shine brighter than ever, no longer obscured by atmospheric haze. But rather than feeling beautiful, it feels haunting. The auroras, normally confined to the poles, begin to appear all over the planet, glowing in strange, unearthly colors. These are caused by charged particles from space bombarding the atmosphere, now unchecked by Earth's protective layers. And then one day the sky disappears entirely. Looking up, there is no more blue, only blackness. A thin, suffocating silence blankets the world. Earth is no longer a thriving, life-filled planet. It is becoming a dead world, its atmosphere slowly bleeding into the void of space. But the worst horror of all, this is still not the final stage of destruction. The black hole has not even reached us yet. With our atmosphere disintegrating, radiation levels rising, and meteor impacts becoming more frequent, Earth is already barely recognizable. But now, under the immense gravitational influence of the black hole, the very ground beneath our feet is starting to break apart. At first, the changes seem minor: cracks in the Earth's crust, strange tremors, and unexplained shifts in tectonic activity. But these early warning signs are only the beginning. The planet's core becomes unstable deep beneath Earth's surface. At the very heart of our planet lies the molten iron core, the source of Earth's magnetic field, and a crucial factor in maintaining geological stability. But as the black hole's pull distorts our gravity, it also interferes with the planet's internal dynamics. The core, normally a churning sphere of molten metal, begins to rotate irregularly, throwing Earth's geophysical systems into chaos. Seismic activity skyrockets. Earthquakes that were once-in-a-century disasters now happen daily, and they're stronger than ever before. Fault lines all over the world experience violent ruptures. Cities built along tectonic boundaries, like San Francisco, Tokyo, and Istanbul, suffer catastrophic collapses as the ground itself shifts violently beneath them. And then the volcanoes awaken. Volcanic eruptions cover the sky. In darkness, Earth's crust is under immense stress. Magma chambers, long dormant, suddenly experience massive pressure buildup. One by one, the world's supervolcanoes begin to erupt with unimaginable force. Yellowstone in North America spews out enough ash and debris to blanket half the continent in darkness. Toba in Indonesia
erupts with the force of thousands of nuclear bombs, sending shockwaves across the Pacific. Campi Flegrei in Italy covers Europe in a thick, choking cloud of sulfur and dust. The sky darkens even further, blocking out what little sunlight remains. Ash and toxic gases poison the air, making it almost impossible to breathe without protection. Global temperatures plummet, throwing the world into a new volcanic winter. Crops begin to fail en masse, and any remaining survivors must now fight for every scrap of food. But even this is not the final stage of destruction. The continents start to crack apart. Earth's tectonic plates are moving in ways never seen before. The gravitational distortions caused by the black hole are literally pulling the planet apart at the seams. Entire landmasses begin to split. Oceans start to drain into deep fissures, creating vast empty chasms. Mountain ranges collapse, forming gaping voids in the crust. The African Rift Valley, where the continent is already slowly splitting in two, suddenly accelerates its separation. Massive chunks of land break away and sink into the depths. The Pacific Ring of Fire, a region already prone to seismic activity, experiences a never-ending chain reaction of earthquakes, tsunamis and volcanic eruptions. Coastlines are redrawn overnight, and islands disappear beneath the waves. But even as the planet is ripped apart, something far worse is coming. The Earth's core begins to cool. The iron core that once generated Earth's protective magnetic field is now losing energy. Normally, the planet's interior heat keeps the core in motion, producing the magnetic field that shields us from solar winds.
T-minus 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Booster ignition and liftoff of Discovery, hoisting harmony to the heavens and opening new gateways for international science.
Earth is left completely vulnerable to cosmic forces. Deadly radiation from the sun and the black hole itself bombards the planet's surface. Deadly radiation from the sun and the black hole itself bombards the planet's surface, accelerating genetic mutations, causing mass extinctions, and making survival nearly impossible. At this point, Earth is no longer a habitable planet. It is a dying rock, a world in its final moments. But there is one final catastrophe that will seal its fate. The planet begins to spaghettify. Spaghettification is a terrifying effect that occurs when an object approaches the event horizon of a black hole. The immense gravitational pull stretches anything it captures into long, thin strands like spaghetti. Oceans rise into massive walls of water, then vanish into space. The crust cracks open, exposing the molten core beneath.
Finally, in the last moments, the entire planet stretches into a thin, glowing thread of matter, before vanishing into the black hole forever. The story of Earth has come to an end. But what happens next? Is there any chance of survival beyond the black hole? And what mysteries lie beyond the event horizon?